morning. Looks like we've got everybody here, and plus a couple of new people, or folks that haven't been able to make the last one anyway, probably more appropriate. Welcome aboard. So this is, I believe, this session 6, I believe, yes. We're going to talk about team makeup. Team makeup is an interesting subject. Man, there's as many opinions on what makes a good team as there are managers. But a couple of them have held out and gained credibility. More importantly, they've retained credibility. So it's not just management by bestseller. It's not just what everybody thinks at any moment. We're going to talk about one of those books right now. It's First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham. What happens if you take 80,000 interviews at well over 400 companies and ask all the really successful managers what it was that made them successful? I'll tell you what you get. You get a wildly self-congratulatory book where everybody talks about how amazing they are and completely forgets the real stuff they did when they start. It's pretty funny, to be honest. Self-congratulatory is probably an understatement. However, there are some pretty good management techniques in this book in spite of that. But to be honest, the unintentional takeaways are more interesting than the things they teach you in the book, and I'll explain that why in just a second. When you first started in your career, everybody on this call has had some success in their career. Great or small, long-term, short-term, you've done something right to be where you are right now. But I want you to stop and think about that very first job you ever had. Were you always the paragon of virtue you are now? Not so much. I know some really highly successful businessmen and businesswomen, one in particular, that will tell you they were the most incredible, angelic, loving, caring people, and they treat their team like family and just, I've been called a mother hen recently, in fact. But was I always a mother hen? Probably not. Some of the people that I know personally that think of themselves as really good managers and good people, yeah, I said that, were awful. They were absolutely awful. I remember them when they were walking around screaming. But now that they're successful, they've got these wonderful rose-colored glasses. So when you go through this book, if you decide to read it, and it is a good book, when you go through it, please keep that in mind. I read a couple of those stories and just kind of shook my head and said, I know that's how you look at yourself, in this wonderful fantasy world that you've built of your past life. Isn't necessarily true. So heavy grain of salt when you read this book. Some great things in it, though. What are the 4 key traits of great managers they talk about? And I'm going to read you these 4, and then I'm going to tell you what they really mean, at least my opinion. Your opinion may vary. They don't hesitate, that is to say, great managers, don't hesitate to break virtually every rule held sacred by conventional wisdom. If that was true, this would be anarchy. There would be no business plan, no business model. No one would care about EBITDA. This company would, that company would. It's complete nonsense. However, what is true is people that become successful generally push against blind inertia. Let me explain the difference. If you've ever heard anything like the following sentence, you understand what blind inertia is. That's where someone says, that's not how we do it here. We've always done it this way. You start hearing people have those sorts of conversations, you're really dealing with blind inertia. Or a company just has so much momentum. They've just been moving this way for so long that whole sections, not necessarily all of it, but sections of the company will just fall into a predictable pattern and not move out of it. It comes back to the old expression back in the day, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. Even when there were much better things in the market, huge swaths of companies stayed with IBM. There's a certain blind inertia that just happens, especially the larger the organization, the more likely you're going to find it. But any company that makes more than $1 million a year, you're going to find some of it. You simply are. So they don't break every rule of conventional wisdom, and it's kind of stupid to say they do. A good example of a real life time that happened I was working at US West, and I was asked to create a report. Kevin Ahern's listening, for real time, to track real time what agents were doing in the field, the people that actually went out and fixed things, the technical support guys that fixed your phone. And it had never been done. And I said, well, all you have to do is take snapshots, at certain times during the day. Remember, real-time systems didn't exist back then. I'm old. But if you took snapshots and pulled that down into a report, and then you compared the report and subtract that from that, well, you knew exactly where they were at any given moment, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late. Today, we call that near real-time. Back then, that was real-time. And it was astounding as a concept, according to one director in IT who looked at me and she said to my face, Wayne, it can't work. And I said, why? And she said, because if it could work, someone would have already done it. I left that room angrier than I've been in a long time, and I went and built the damn thing out of spite and wound up taking that to the COO. And it was a good thing for my career. It really was. So pushing against conventional wisdom, no. Pushing against blind inertia, yes, believe that completely. Number two, they don't believe that with enough training, a person can achieve anything he sets his mind to. Whoever believes that? I mean, that's something they teach you in Disney movies. But if I go down, and I'm just going to say it, if I go down to somebody who's, frankly, their English skills aren't that great, they never graduated high school, they quit somewhere in 8th grade, and they're working on a construction site, good work, don't laugh at it, I did it, but can I bring them over? And if they believe strong enough, can they work on firewalls with Mike Keeling? Yeah, no, probably not. Some things that you do take years of dedication and training. That would be the case for virtually everybody on this call. But I can't go out and grab somebody necessarily working at Starbucks or somewhere else, and if they believe they could be a vital member of your team, I don't believe it for a second. But the thing is, no one does. It's kind of a straw man. Number three, they don't try to help people overcome their weaknesses. That's true. We train and promote based on strength. If there's a glaring weakness, we help somebody. But if there's a really, really, really serious problem, it's just a cultural non-fit. Most of those problems are ethics related anyway. I don't care what anyone tells you. So, yeah, that's true. But it's not a surprise. None of this is new. It's just kind of codifying what we thought. And here's my favorite one. One of the other key traits of a great manager is they play favorites. I don't think they could put more nonsense into that statement and the way they described it. What they're really talking about is that we as managers and we as leaders choose who we promote. We know who we can count on. I know for a fact that if something dies and something going to a client that they use to manage their business, I can call Kevin. I don't question it. I don't think about it. Who am I going to call but him? If he was in a different role and there was a similar issue or even a separate issue, he's that kind of person. He's that kind of personality. I'm not, unnecessarily trying to buff up his ego. I feel that way about everybody on this call. We have people that we learn to count on, and those people put out extra effort, put out extra energy. That's why you're on this. You're trying a little harder. You're trying a little more. I know for a fact that I can count on you. That's not playing favorites. It's recognizing the capability of your team and being able to look at it with a very cold eye sometimes. Not really favoritism. So everything they say is true. They're selling it like it's a big new thing, not so much. One interesting thing I got about it is they do have 12 questions to measure the strength of a workplace. And I really like this. So get ready. All right, here's your 12. Pretty basic. You probably know 99% of these. Do I have what is expected of me at work? If you've got somebody that can't answer that question as yes, you're probably not managing them right. A person could say, do I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right? We've talked about this already. This is nothing new. At work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? That's really just saying, are you putting people in the right positions? In the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for good work? That should probably just be feedback, because the feedback you get isn't always good, but we'll let that go. Number 5, does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me as a person? Does anyone feel like hugging right now? Care about me as a person? probably a better way to say that is anyone showing interest in my career or in me, so that you don't just feel like you're a cog in a wheel, that sort of thing. It's overly huggy right there. Number 6, is there someone at work who encourages my development? Does the employee belong here? Are you trying to make it better? Well, there better be. That better be you, by the way. At work, do my opinions seem to count? Kind of interesting. Should, if they're educated opinions, and I'll go into that in a minute. 8, does my mission, purpose of my company make me feel like my work is important? Yeah, that's the difference between a job and a career, right? 9, are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? By the way, all that really means is there a decent manager? Because a good manager, the answer is going to be yes. A bad manager, the answer is no. So it's a good thing for you to know. It really is. 10, do I have a best friend at work? What? I thought that was interesting. More like people we can get along with, and we grow together, that sort of thing. But best friend, that's nice if you do. Not really required. That's kind of up to you. 11, in the last 6 months, have I talked with someone about my progress? Legit. In 6 months, if no one's spoken to you about their future, you haven't spoken to them about their future, and it is a two-way street, you may want to consider them, rethink what you're doing. 12, at work, have I had opportunities to learn and grow? That's going to greatly depend on the kind of work done there. But to be honest with you, those 12 questions are legitimate. And if you get anything out of reading the book, just kind of sink those into your head. You probably use more than half, if not 3/4 of them as it is. And like I said, you probably know virtually all of them. But it's a good collection. So anyway, that's First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham, a wildly self-inflated tome involving a whole lot of surveys, and they call them interviews. So, but really good stuff in there if you can read through it. All right, is everybody ready to go to the quick lecture on team makeup? Are you all with me still? Is anybody there?
Present.
We're here.
Yep. Thank you. When you guys lock the video, I can't always tell. All right, team makeup. So what is a team? It's not a silly question. What is a team? I mean, there's a group of people that may work together. That's not necessarily a team, right? So a team is a motivated group of people that through shared focus or shared direction, that's your job, by the way, can achieve more than an equal number of people who do not share the same direction. And it's the old saw that we've all known our entire lives, right? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You can get a collection of any 6 people, make a team out of them, and they can outwork any other group of 6 people anywhere. And it's all about having the same direction and pulling together. And I really care when I say pulling together. So I'm going to do one of my infamous drawings that makes sense to no one but me. The old rowboat routine. Right? I use this all the time. I know I'm very nautical. I don't know why. We talk about it all the time now. How you're going to have people on both sides of the boat, and usually there's a person in the back beating a drum, by the way. I don't care if you're the strongest, fastest rower. I really don't. I want to get the best people I can. I want to get the greatest skills I can. But what I really care about is that you work together. And that's actually how you have to think. And the higher up you go in your career, the more you focus on that, and the less you focus on individual skill. Kind of weird, but that's actually how it works. So I've said lots of times, I don't care if you're the strongest, I don't care if you're the fastest, I just want to know you're all pulling in the same direction. And I can get an amazing person on my team, he's awesome, and they pull the wrong direction, instead of with all the rest of us, I'll exit them from the business, and I won't even blink. I don't care. That is probably the single most destructive thing you can get. You have to have everybody aligned. If you can do that, you can do virtually anything. So let's talk about the type of people on a team, and then I'll do more of my awful drawings for you. Honestly, it looks more like a hairy carrot. I don't know. As an artist, I make a great leader. Anyway, types of people on a team. Let's have some fun. Number 1, the politician. I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation where someone says, they're just political. Well, what were the 3 things you manage as a leader? Right? They're finances, people, political capital. A politician is not necessarily a bad thing to have on your team. The problem is you can only have one. on your team. And I mean one, because if you have two, they'll spend all their time trying to kill each other. Don't think I'm kidding. I'm dead serious. However, if you've got a large organization and you're trying to do a lot of things, having somebody that really is political, that really understands politically how to move things through a company, who to talk to, who the influencer is, these people are really valuable. I know some of you on this call will know her, Tina Valdez. Worked at Teletech, works for Cisco, works for Cisco now. Pure politics, one of the most political animals you ever met, and a force of nature. God help you if you get in her way. I am lucky enough, blessed enough, or cursed enough to call her my cousin. She's stunning. I would never want to argue with her, but she's pure politics. She knows who to talk to, who to call, who to send a note to, always taking care of her shareholders. People adore her. She doesn't do much, but make sure that she has the stakeholders perfectly aligned with the work that's going on beneath her. That's not a small task. Somebody with strong political skills is a great thing to have in your organization. You just have to be sure you don't have too many of them. Then they all just sit around and talk and argue why they're better than the other ones. So don't go there. But you should find one person that understands politics, because you can't be everywhere. Two, the development project. Some of you have heard me already talk about this, and I yell at you about it all the time. Well, define yell. I don't yell that much, but I act like I do. You are allowed one development project. You are only allowed one development project at a time. A development project is someone that has a skill set that you really like. If you remember earlier when we were talking about an explicit weakness, you promote for strength and you try to stay away from weaknesses. You're allowed to have one person on your team that has a weakness. Problem with time, problem with managing the finance, problem with this. You can have one, but you've got to recognize that you're going to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to break them of that habit. That's hard. It really is. If you have more than one development project in your organization, you are doing everybody else on your team a disservice. I really want to say that again. I want you to hear that. If you have more than one person who you really got to spend a lot of time on, everyone else in your team is getting the short shaft. You're doing them wrong. You need to stop it. I'll give you one, but if I find out you have two, I will fix it for you, and you won't appreciate it. Take this seriously. I've seen a lot of people and a lot of careers fail because they spend so much time trying to help everybody that they forget and the whole team suffers. They lose their job, and then half the people in the team lose their jobs anyway. You aren't doing anyone any favors. Pick one, wash your hands. And that person's no longer development project or in the red zone, then you're allowed to go get another one. And I know some people that love it. My friend Jim Sullivan adores finding development projects. Good-hearted kids, but they got an issue. He loves it. It's a driver, but you only get one. Number three, this one, people argue about it sometimes, the drag. Do you know what a drag is? Has anybody ever heard this? I get nautical again. Are you excited? I know you are. All right, so we're going to look at an old schooner, an old fishing boat. So I'll draw a big sail. I'm good, right? That's pretty good, right? So back in the old days when there was sea battles, England versus France versus the Spanish Armada, et cetera, all the way down to the Revolutionary War before things kind of changed with technology, they would always try to get broadsides. They would always try to get the side of their vessel to where it was aiming at the front of the back of the other so that they could bring more cannons to bear than that one could. Kind of makes sense. So they would sit there and maneuver. One of the ways they would maneuver is with the drag. They would put out a long rope, and on the end of the rope was this rock that had a hole in it. The rope went through it, and that was a drag. It would go down. The weight and speed of the ship, however, the weight of the rock was, and the speed of the ship wouldn't let it go all the way down. It would pull it through the water, and it was shaped as such to cause as much interference with the natural flow of the water as it could. It created a drag. And what they did is they would then catch the wind, and this drag would let them turn faster in a beautiful circle so they could get their broadside here against this ship here. You understand? Drags were very important. This has actually been done for thousands of years. People don't talk about them anymore because we don't use them anymore, but it was once a very known, well-known function. The drag was very important. Some of the earliest things that we have of human tool making are actual drags that were found in the water that were used by ancient fishermen. They're unnecessary things for you. What's the point of a drag? A drag to me, and a drag in terms of what we're talking about here, is an extraordinarily talented person who doesn't necessarily get along with others. This isn't a development project. This is a personality type. This is something that is set. This is something that won't change. They just are. You have to accept it. But they're really, really talented, and you can use them to change something in a hurry if you do. You want to. What you can't do is have them always out pulling behind you, dragging the entire boat down. You can't do it. You have to know when to use them. If you get somebody that doesn't necessarily play well with others and don't like to hear other opinions and they're just really set on something, you pull them out when you have an emergency, when you have something that requires singular focus and not even the ability to work with others. And you put them in an individual contributor role, hopefully on that project all by themselves, so they aren't wrecking the rest of your team. But you can use them every now and then. I do. I generally have 1 to 2 drags in any organization I'm in. No, I won't call out names, but you always have 1 or 2, and it's okay. The important thing is you as a manager got to know this person isn't necessarily the best guy or girl that you want to put in charge of a team or a team project or something where 5 or 6 people are going to work together to make a client happy. They're a single resource or a single purpose, and that purpose is to help you turn and pivot or drag. Next. 4. I love this one. High expectations. Did anybody ever watch those old cartoons where there was a big dog and a little dog on Looney Tunes, and the little dog was bouncing around going, "Hey, Spike, hey, Spike." Just really excitable little people. That's what you're dealing with here. These are the people that walk up to you and without being ironic say, "You know, I've been here a month. When do I get promoted?" I mean, they just, and it's not arrogance. They mean well. They're just really excitable, and then everything is going to happen for them. I got news for you. These people are ephemeral. They come in, they get their hearts broken, they leave. They come in, they get their hearts broken, they leave. They come in. Every now and then one of them will go, "That's not the way to be." They get it under control. And if you can help with that, you're actually a great manager. Way to go. But a lot of times these people come in and they come out, and it's sad. When you see someone like that, you try your best. Temper your expectations just a little bit. But oftentimes they get disillusioned and they leave. And then they do the same thing in the next job. And then they do this, and then eventually it happens enough that they go, so that's not the way to be. You'll get these people back in 3 or 4 years. People like it, it's not the exact same. And you'll notice the maturity has come. They'd still like to do those things, but they don't think it happens tomorrow. So anyway, just watch for that. Generally, they're not good development projects. They really aren't. Your mileage may vary. Number 5, this should not be mixed up with make me a king. This is somebody who is so convinced of their intellect and so unaware of their image in the eyes of others that they will have the temerity to walk up to you and say, "You know, you need to promote me. I can fix all this. You guys are doing it all wrong. Yeah. I need to work in on Saturday. Yeah. Make me a king." I want you to know, every other month, I get an email. Somebody will get an email. Jay will get an email. Chad will get an email. Every other month, we'll get an email from someone who knows everything. And they know how to do everything. And if you just promote them and listen to them, they can fix everything. It happens all the time. And in rare cases, they may be right. You may have someone who's reasonably senior, really smart, who has a great idea. So that happens, that you actually can't step on these people when they come up, because occasionally you're going to get a great idea. But it's 1 out of 10. The other 9 out of 10 are people that just have no concept of really what they're saying. And I think they even mean well in most cases, but it's interesting. So if you have someone on your team that says, if I was running the team, this would be better, I got to tell you, you're in trouble. The odds of fixing this, slim divided by none. Much like this. Experience fixes these. You may be the first, second, or third person that winds up letting them go, or just ignoring them until they leave on their own accord, or maybe turn them into a drag, because that's possible. But the fact of the matter is, it's only experience makes these things go away. It's generally your younger employees. Not all, but generally. All right? 6, the millennial. I have an opinion. I know you guys can't believe that I have an opinion, but I do. The self-esteem generation, right? That's what everybody says. I'm going to give you a rule. Stop complaining and start training. Teach, teach, teach. This is actually kind of our own fault, really. We've got to raise skills, lower expectations, lower entitlement. I mean, one of the things that I think you can get out of spending the time is with the millennials to realize up front, it's not their fault. I keep hearing these things. They don't work. They don't this. They don't that. It's not really true. Quite frankly, I think that's, the older generation going, get off my lawn. What is true, however, is they haven't been taught time management. That isn't taught anymore. And they aren't taught fiscal responsibility and long-term planning. When we were in school, certainly when I was in school, they still had home economics classes everybody had to take. We had a finance class in high school where they taught us how to balance a checkbook, how to put money in a savings account, and how to plan a budget for your home. They don't do that anymore. We've got an entire generation that we're expecting to act like well-rounded adults that we haven't given the basic skills to. Well, for God's sake, we're not allowed to get upset that they don't have them. And you're not allowed to look down on them because they don't have them. There's a difference between, frankly, refusing to learn and refusing to care and ignorance because no one's shown you. There is no shame in ignorance. And frankly, it's our fault as a society, as people who are more and more often elders in the society, that we let this happen. So hire millennials. Find them. Just recognize you've got to teach time skills. You've got to teach them, the sort of long-term thinking that you're going to be dealing with on a regular basis, and train them. Train them, train them, train them. I'll tell you what happens, though. You spend the time to do it. I promise you. They'll appreciate it. They'll remember it. You'll have a supporter for life. You've got a fan. These are the things that never go away. And it's not just millennials, by the way. It's been this way for a while now. And several other generations, I would say even in mine, it's probably 10%. And it became 20, maybe it's 30 today. I'll leave that to somebody whose job it is to make up statistics. Yeah, I have an opinion. But to be honest with you, I've forgotten how many times I've heard in my career some version of the following sentence. No one's ever taken the time to teach me before. Thank you. Lost track. And I've heard it from every generation. Happens more often with millennials. Oh, well, train. They'll appreciate it, and they'll appreciate you. All right. Let's talk about the biggies. 7, 8, 9, 10. This is how we almost all measure people on a team. All right. Number 7 is rising excellence. Number 8, stable excellence. 9, the solid player. There's various forms of these, but it's all the same thing, just with different words. And number 10, I'm going to use a horrible term. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. Warmers. Stable excellence is often called an A person. Solid player is called a B. A seed warmer is often called a C. And rising excellence is something completely different. Somebody you might consider rising excellence is someone that if you don't promote them really fast or put them in another job, they're going to leave. They're just simply too talented for their role. They're just too good at it. They've got hopes, aspirations. They're really driven. They're you, just a step down and just getting into the role. Well, you have a responsibility when you meet you, and that is to either find them a new role or sometimes to tell them to leave. And I'm not kidding. There's a couple of people that work here that I've had those conversations with. One guy at a previous company, and I'm not going to say a name because I'm nice, I said, quit. You're too good for what you do. And the role you're in, they're not going to appreciate it. Leave. Go somewhere else. The best thing that could happen for him and the company was this person to leave. Period. Wrong role. Too talented. Needs to go. I do happen to know that he left, went to another company, and became the absolute best at a different role that they had extreme success. I'm very proud of him to this day. To this day. But what he needed to be told was, get out. This isn't where you're going to grow. Other times you can put them in positions where they can grow. But a real leader thinks long term. I want you to hear that. Listen to me. A real leader thinks long term. You're a leader. You're not at this company. You're a leader. You personally are a leader. 2 jobs from now, you're going to have an opening. Trust me. You're going to need somebody. You're going to remember that person, and you're going to talk to them. And they're going to remember that you gave them greatest advice of their life. And they went on to success. Well, you better be ready. But if you are, they'll come back. And now they're in a heck of a great position, and you've got a rock star on your hand. So, rising excellence, take care of it. They're you a few years back. And frankly, someday you may work for them. One of the guys on my team has trained, God, I bet he trained 7, 8 people, 10 people, a dozen. Some of them went on to surpass him. I got one guy I trained right now. He's an executive in Australia, doing great. I could care less. I'm proud of it. You know, you train people up, not necessarily for the role you win, but for who they are. All right. Stable excellence. We all know these people. You have to manage through the culture for these. You have to make them promotable. They may not be. They may just be really, really great at what they do. And you remember I told you before, we almost always promote these people. Terrible, awful thing that we do to them. So you manage through the culture. You train these folks who really kick butt at their job how to better align with the culture of the company you're at. And if you do that, they become promotable. It's actually a lot of fun. You got to give them the skills and all the rest of the stuff, of course. But just think manage to the culture. Solid players. I got news for you. These people you're managing up. They're always looking to improve, but improve in little ways. Improve this skill, that skill, the other skill. Don't beat on them. The truth of the matter is 80% of your workforce is going to be B player every time. I don't give it in. Sometimes you get lucky, you get more A's. I certainly have gotten lucky here. I have way more A's than I have B's, and I do think some of it is luck. But in general, most places you work, this is the workhorse, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's like when we do our PL5s and people say, I can't believe that's all I got. I mean, they gave me a 3. There's nothing wrong with a 3. 3 means you're doing your job and you're doing it just fine. A 3 is not you're barely getting by. That's a 2. A 3 is a solid player. 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, 3-5. Solid player. Solid player. Above that, you're getting into it. Of course, your seat warmers. What do? Manage out. If you want to try to take a C player and turn them into an A player, you have just started a development project. Sure you want to do that? You can only have one. Pay attention. The people you manage out. I don't have a lot of C players. However, I will tell you this. These aren't static. People shift and move and change, sometimes for personal reasons. I had a guy on my team at Amaya that was one of the most incredible, talented developers I'd ever known. Extraordinary human being. And then he went through a divorce. And he turned into the worst person on my team. Dropped every project, was just killing. And I said, listen, blank, I understand how hard you have it right now. I know all the issues you have. I know about the divorce. I know about the child custody. I know about everything you're going through. But how much worse is it going to be to go through divorce and child custody battles while being unemployed? Because it's coming like a freight train. Get your head out of here. Now, I'm a little more politic because I've gotten older. I would probably have stated that differently, to be honest with you. But it's what he needed to hear at the time. You know, people move up and down, personal reasons, financial reasons. Who knows? Someone's mother gets sick. Someone's father gets sick. I mean, really major life events occur, and they shift. However, rarely does a C player go up. May get somebody down enough, but this person rarely climbs. So you have to be of the mindset to manage them out. If, as you're pushing to manage them out, they rise up and become a B player, Pat yourself on the back. Hallelujah. You've done a heck of a thing that not many people get to see in their life. More power to you. But you cannot hurt the rest of the team. We've had that conversation. Having a bad person on the team wrecks the morale and brings the whole thing down. It's like everybody pulling on their oars. They're not all pulling equally. The boat goes left, the boat goes right, slows down, loses the race. Don't be shy. It's hard, but you know what? That's why you're the boss. So, main rule on teams. If you want highly skilled people, that's good. Everybody should. I do. I'm proud to have highly skilled people. Everybody on this call is somebody of, frankly, important and great skill. I'm proud of that. But to be honest with you, if you're building a team at your level, all those skills are important. The most important thing you can do is cultural alignment, both to the team, to your vision, and to the company's vision. And for the record, one last thing. If you can't believe and support the vision of the company you're in, you have a chance to affect it as a leader. You can. It doesn't always work. If the company doesn't change, you have a decision to make. Do I want to sit here and create an aura of stability around the team I own? We've done that before. I can think of a couple of people on this call I know did another job. You create a little ocean of sanity and the insanity. Do I want to do that, or do I want to move? Those are your only two options. The likelihood of you changing the entire culture of the company is zero. And if you convince yourself you can, remember that inertia. If you convince yourself you can change the entire company, well, do you really know who you've become? You are not the king. Somebody down the hall here, I was chatting with someone, we got another one of those emails recently, and it was, I loved it. I just got an email that said, make me the Pope. Really? You know, don't be that person. Chances are a large company is not going to change because of one individual. You've got to agree with the culture. You can change it subtly. You can't change it greatly. And if you don't agree with it, your choices are make an ocean or get out. That's it. There's no other job. Your mileage may vary. Maybe some of you have a different opinion. That's mine. All right. That takes care of today. Next week will be dealing with conflict. This is actually one of the ones that's most fun to me. I enjoy this one. Maybe it's because I like conflict. Dealing with conflict. Optional reading, Make Your Bed. Next week is going to be very, very busy because Make Your Bed is a heck of a book. We're going to take a lot of notes on it. So that'll be next week. Thanks for listening. Questions? We'll go to a count of three. Does anybody have a question?
I think there's still a meeting request for later on today. Is that not another session?
No, you can nuke that one. That was probably a screw up. You know, as a guy who runs IT, you would think I understand calendars. I don't. I'm terrible at it. And now I have someone who manages my calendar to boot. So I never know what's going on at any given moment. Frankly, if you guys didn't call me and tell me I need to be somewhere, I'd miss half my meetings. That's the truth. I'll get used to the admin thing soon, I promise. Any other questions? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Thank you for your attention. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.